In your notebooks, wherever you are, we are going to talk about square roots and real numbers. Remember to update your table of contents. We will very quickly review perfect square numbers. 4 is a perfect square, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on. 4 is a perfect square because it's 2 squared, meaning 2 times 2. 9 is a perfect square because it is 3 squared, 3 times 3. 16, 4 squared, 25, 5 squared, 36, 6 squared, and it continues from there. This is called a radical sign. When I ask you to find the square root of 4, you will eventually learn it's the same as 4 to the half power. If I ask you to find the cube root of 8, it is the same as 8 to the third power. These you will focus on in Algebra 2. What we're going to work with today are pretty straightforward, but you need to be very careful. If I ask you for the square root of 64, you're really thinking to yourself, what number times itself will equal 64? 8. So 8 squared. Sometimes I will ask for the positive and negative square root of 64. So we already know 8 squared is 64. Is there another number times itself that will get you to 64? Yes. Negative 8 squared will get you 64. So when it comes time to write your answer, you can say positive negative 8, meaning positive 8, negative 8 squared equals 64. So if I give you the positive negative square root of 625, I am looking for more than just the negative. I'm looking for the negative and positive. So I would use my calculator. 25 squared is 625, and negative 25 squared is 625. Sometimes I will just ask for the negative square root, meaning I only want negative 9 as my answer because negative 9 squared gets me a positive 81. Try this one on your calculator. What would you get if you took the square root of negative 121? Do you get an error? Why? Currently, from what you know, this is not possible. You will learn in a more advanced math to use something called the cursive I, imaginary numbers. We are currently working with real numbers. Eventually, you will be working with imaginary numbers. To take the square root of negative 121, you would remove the negative by using the cursive I for imaginary. And you would end with 11i. And remember, the I stands for an imaginary number. But we will not be doing that this year. If I give you a fraction, what is the square root of 16 ninths? I will not want decimals. Instead, I need you to break it apart. You're going to take the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 9 is 3. If I give you the negative square root of 49 over 256, we're going to break it apart. So I will take the square root of 49 over the square root of 256. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 256 is 16. You may definitely use calculators for that. A few examples. The entire fraction was under the radical sign. Every once in a while, you will get a fraction where just the numerator or just the denominator is under the radical sign. So when you enter it in your calculator, you need to be very careful. In this situation, you may end with a decimal. I would take the square root of 8. I usually round to the nearest tenth in this case, so 2.8 over 3, and then I will divide by 3. Do the numerator first. If you enter this as one equation, your calculator will enter it as 8/3 and then take the square root. I end with 0.93 or 93 hundredths. Please practice that on your calculator. Another portion of your lesson, you'll be asked to order things from least to greatest. Remember, least means smallest. Greatest means largest. If I give you these 4 real numbers, I have 12/5, square root of 6, 2 and 4/10 with 4/10 repeating forever, and 61/25. In order to list these in least to greatest, I use my calculator and I convert them all to decimals. I would take top divided by bottom. I would get 2.4. When I take the square root of 6, I get 2.449. Be careful when you write those down. You line up your digits carefully. 2.4 with the 4 repeating. I'm just going to write that out a little bit. Again, I'm very careful to line up all my digits. And then I have 61/25. I used my calculator. I am looking for the smallest one. I will start and cover all the digits to the right. They're all 2. Slide 1 digit over. They're all 4s. I am looking for the hundredths place to be the smallest number. Oh, here I see that I don't have a number. What number do you fill in there that won't change the value? You can put a 0. Therefore, now 0 is the smallest number, meaning 12/5 is the least greatest in all of those. So I'm here. I was here. Oh, these are all 4s, so I need to slide over 1 more digit. Again, I have an empty spot. When I have an empty spot, I can fill it in. 0 now becomes the next smallest. So I would have 61/25. 4 would be next, so 2.4 with the 4 repeating, leaving me with the square root of 6 being the greatest. This is the smallest number. That is the greatest number. We have to be very careful when we're working with negative numbers. If I give you the negative square root of 65, negative 6 2/5, negative square root of 27, again, I want least to greatest. I'm going to convert them all to decimals. Negative square root of 65 is negative 8.0622. I write down a few decimals just to make sure I have enough. Negative 6 2/5 is equal to negative 6 4/10. Finally, the negative square root of 27 is negative 5.126. When I look at these, I have to pay close attention to the fact I am working with negative numbers. So when I'm looking for the least, -8 is actually the smallest out of these three. Then would be the -6 2/5, leaving me with negative square root of 27. Negative numbers are almost backwards, so to say.